Well, good morning. My title this morning is, Are You a Wounded Healer? Have you ever been wounded? Then you're a healer. Our spiritual principle says that freedom is the birthright of every individual. We are spiritual beings in a spiritual universe having a human experience. Therefore, you are free to choose your life. You are free to choose your life. At 13, Katerina learned that she was worth $550. A lonely girl with a wealthy father, a millionaire, who refused to take care of his children, and his wife worked 2 jobs to take care of them, and they lived in poverty in a hotel in Miami. Multiple jobs to take care of her children when he had substance. But they lived in poverty with Miami, and her father was mean and very, very difficult to deal with. She was 7 the first time she was sexually abused. And it was by the babysitter. 12, it was by her father. And at 13, while sitting at a pool alone, she met her first friend. Her first friend was Mary, and Mary was 18. Beautiful, confident, supportive. She listened. She seemed to want to engage and be a part of Katrina's life. Mary was grooming her for sex trafficking. Now, sex trafficking is the trade of humans for forced labor and sexual exploitation. And it is an unbelievable thing to do to people. Some estimates, and we don't know how many people it affects, 21 million people are involved in it at any given time. I am using 2 books, the first being Wounded Healer. In our woundedness, we become the source of life for others. And the second, Stolen, the true story of a sex trafficking survivor, Katerina Rosenblatt. And I put them on the slide for people who ask me that question after service every time. You know, healers come from all kinds of disciplines. They're professional healers. They're social workers and teachers and ministers. But most often, the healing comes through friends. And more importantly, it comes through people who have had a shared experience. A healer alleviates the pain and the suffering in some kind of way. Somehow, the pain is transformed. What happens is some change in consciousness from someone who has identified with you and that you trust and you understand that it is possible for you to overcome too. But that person who is a wounded healer needs to only see you as a whole and complete person. What is going on around you is a condition. It is not who you are. A belief in the indwelling divinity that rests in everyone is beyond an intellectual thing. There is something in me that holds me to this belief, even when I don't want to believe it. Now, the healer is a person who learns to see God in everyone, and it ain't easy. A healer should have a deep, abiding joy with the experience, though. So if you are a wounded healer, which I am sure you are, I hope it comes with joy, that your pain has been transformed. Now, you know, no one heals you. We heal from the inside out. We are our own healer. Our bodies are even restorative. That's what happens. Our bodies heal itself. With spiritual healing, we just need to inspire another person. To inspire is to put spirit in it. That's what we do to one another. We put spirit in your story, whatever it is, because if you know that and you understand that all things are possible, you can overcome. Inspiration is everything to a wounded healer. No person physically heals another person. Now, do I believe in spontaneous people that have healings? Of course I do. I have spent 40 years in healthcare, and sometimes it defies description. But it comes from the inside of that person, no special person. Because if it was a special gift that someone had, why don't you just go down the hall and just heal everybody that's in the hospital and put me out of job, you know? But every person has this ability to shift the consciousness of people around them toward yes instead of no. to move from the effect, the world of effect, where all you can see is the problem and the complexity and the misunderstanding, and recognize that there is a cause that does not change, and that is the love of God. When we shift in consciousness to understand that that love will always be there, it holds on to us even when we don't hold on to it, you can overcome. The healer moves us to faith and to hope in desperate situations where people think they just can't go on. Consciousness involves a spiritual awareness. That's why I love the name of this place. It's an awareness. It's a transcendent awareness. And once you understand that you have it, you can speak with authority of your word for anything to be possible, because it's all possible, because you are whole, perfect, and complete. We have to recognize that spirit in every person. Therefore, the person whose consciousness is the clearest is the one who can accomplish the most. The consciousness of truth is the only tool that we have. That's all we got. It's the truth. It's the principle. The healer mentally, yes, ascends to something that they know is there, but the belief and the strength in it is to understand that within every person is that divine spirit. God is in and through everyone, even the people I don't like. The indwelling presence is there, and I have to remind myself of that. Very funny. You're in there somewhere, God. You know, are you hiding? Psychologist Carl Jung said, he coined the term the wounded healer. He says it's an archetype that suggests that the healer's wound can carry curative power for others. In your pain, you can help transform someone else. He believed deep in emotional and spiritual healing, that the wounds may be the best way to train a healer. Healers see themselves as equals with the person, not superior, but equal with them. I remember one physician I knew really well, who I really didn't like, and he became physically ill himself. And one day he came in and sat in my office and he said, "Now I understand." You know, I suggest you understand and not have to suffer, okay? A sign that you are a healer is that you have experienced some pain and you have compassion for people who have the same experience. Not everyone has compassion on people who have had the same experience. But if you've had that and you have compassion for other people who are that experience, you're a wounded healer. The healer must be committed to wholeness. That is what we're called to do. The spiritual healer is needed to heal people at the spiritual level. It's not because something needs to change. It's just something in you that needs to come out. It's in there all the time. Anyone here who has felt broken, have you ever felt broken? The healer calls the suffering to the love of spirit. Katrina received some good and some bad advice from church. The first place she went, they said you would have a better marriage if you submitted to your husband, who was abusing her. Fortunately, she went someplace else where someone recognized and taught her that she was being abused. She said she was 26 years old before she understood really what was happening to her. It had happened to her her entire life. In healthy faith communities, right? You have sympathy here, but you have empathy. We identify with your pain. However, this is a healing station. This is not the place for you to practice your pain. That's not what we're here for. This is about healing. If you come in the door, I guarantee you something will shake up in your life. People around are loving and caring. And what I hear most of the time is, Rick, you know, people are going to be offended by that. All I can say is I'm not speaking out of anybody's life. That's not what I'm doing. I'm speaking about what happens in life. Talking about something that only happened 2,000 years ago, I can do it. But I don't know that that heals today. I think you got to talk about what's going on today. And sometimes we are offended because it is time for our healing. It amazes me, our own people who hold to this truth, that's an uncomfortable thing. And people are going to be upset about it. Sorry, not really. Because Spirit is doing something more transcendent than I am. I cannot tell you how many times people tell me at the door something they heard that I said, and I know I didn't say it. And I go, that's better than what I said, you know? Because the Spirit anoints your ear to hear what you need to hear. I may be the vehicle that stirs it up, but it's the Spirit that moves you. And the thing about wholeness is it's a messy business. There are sometimes it's just a messy business. You got to come through where you are to where you can possibly go back through that threshold again. It is the truth sometimes offends. It is not intentional. But one needs to ask themselves, why am I offended? What have you stepped on? You are a healer if you have suffered and you are in the process or have been healed, where it has been transformed in your life. There is nothing more dangerous than a bitter healer. A bitter healer is dangerous. Once I was checking out at Walmart many years ago, and the salesperson gave me a complete run of her life in no time flat. You been there? Okay. One of my friends was with me. He said, where do you know her from? And I said, never met her before in my life. I said, don't you see this big forehead? There's something up here that says, tell me. I want to know. I want to know your business. No, I don't. I don't. But here's the issue. It was okay once I understood what it means to be a wounded healer. You are going to draw people to you. Be thankful for that. Be thankful because it's probably somebody else's inspiration that got you over the hump too. That scenario has happened more to me in my life than I can ever count. Experiences like Walmart happen to us all, and I hope that when you are there, you can leave a word of encouragement. That's that showing up, and everything in our experience is either a call for love or an expression of love, when you just want to lose it, and you just know that it's not going to benefit anybody to lose it. It's really not. You're going to feel better for about a minute, and then you should feel guilty. It was easier for me to understand that in my own transformative healing, it was there for other people to benefit from it. Many professionals are wounded healers, but I am talking about being spiritually wounded. That's what I mean. People who have lost the hope for life, that anything can change in their life. I am proud to be one of those people to share, yes, you can. Your pain can be transformed into power. We don't provide therapy. I don't do problem solving. Your problems are too big for me. And I got a whole list of my own, but I can focus on your wholeness. I know you are whole even when all the condition around and everything I see say, what a mess this is. But beyond that mess is God. Our focus is wholeness. Katiana was introduced to sex trafficking when she was 13. Between the ages of 13 and 17, she was drawn back 3 times. By 17, she was a heavy drug user and pregnant. And what happens? The families decide that these 2 people should get married. You know how it is when 2 dysfunctional people get married. Maybe you were one of those 2 dysfunctional people. The thing is, though, her new husband was the son of a drug cartel dealer. I mean, she went big time. Fortunately, he didn't sell drugs and he didn't use them, but he was abusive for 23 years. She experienced abuse. She writes, I was 26 years old before I understood that I was being abused, or that I had been in a prostitution. She said, no money ever circulated through my hands. I just did what they told me. And the more I became addicted to the drugs, the more I showed up for work. The pimp managed the payment system. See, I am not criticizing anything about adult entertainment. That is not what I'm talking about. So that you got to go someplace else for that. What I am talking about is I am against exploitation, and especially exploitation of children. The oppression that some children experience is unbelievable. They have life experiences that none of us will ever have, thank God. But we have to be there for them. Freedom is their birthright. For them to choose their own life, they should not be ruined and sold by someone else. Catriona had to understand that she was worth a whole lot more than $550. She calls the situation a trauma bond, that you get addicted because the drugs are always free as long as you work. That's how they get hooked. And so every time she left the life, if you don't have a supportive structure, what happens? The addiction draws you back, and you are back in the business again, the cycle of abuse. And if you haven't had love in your life, people experience the Stockholm Syndrome, where they fall in love with their captors. All I can say is, I get it. I understand. But every time we encounter someone, we never know the message of hope that we give them. They rationalize that this is love because they've never experienced anything else. Free food and free drugs, but it's not free. They pay for it with their lives. Now, there's this place of honor. And that place of honor is when someone, in a woman in this case, identifies as the wife of the dealer. And that person goes and brings other young girls in. Mary was drawing her in. She was recruiting for the pimp. Now, Katrina writes that there is some sick version of an idea of a family in this situation. But they were constantly told they would have love, and they would always have food, and they would have drugs, and they don't have to go to school. That's how they sucker them in. Some children grow up in such terrible situations, and they are at risk. And hopefully, if we encounter any of that, we are mindful and aware of it and know what to do. And if not, I'm going to get there. There is a direct relationship between children who feel isolated and abandoned and drug addiction. It just damages them. Katerina said she felt like damaged goods. So when she left, only people she thought she could be with was a gang. A gang. I don't ever want people to think that about us. You can come here in all your brokenness, but you're going to have to seek healing while you're here, okay? The gang was the only place where she felt there was community. After a few close calls in life, she realized she needed to get out of it, that it was a message, and she only remembered one sermon that she had ever heard, and it was that God will never leave you. And that's all she needed to make it over to the other side. Young said, embracing our woundedness, we can offer a deep presence that only comes from an awareness that our wounds make us connect to others. We connect in some strange way. It's amazing how it happens. That Spirit sets it up for us. We can identify our wounds and a healing and encourage someone else. Young continues, it is our hurt that gives the measure of our power to heal. Amen. Katerina is a wounded healer story. She quit school in 9th grade. She was pregnant by 17, but she got her GED. She went to undergraduate program in human resources, a master's of law, and has a PhD now in international human trafficking. Okay? Because she found some hope. You can find her resources at her website. Her website is There is hope for me. What a name. There is hope for me. There is hope for the victim and the victimizer. Even the people I don't like. You can overcome being the victim or the victimizer. That's what spirit transforms. It's free for everyone. The goodness of God is always with you. God is good and God is good to all. Lord knows I shouldn't be in charge because I'm not sure I'd give it to everybody. I don't know. I mean, we have our humanness. We want to hold back. You did something terrible. I want to hold it back, but God is not like that. Love is all there is for the victim and the victimizer. Wholeness is not a result of moral behavior. It is a result of the unconditional love of God. It's not predicated on what we do. It is predicated on what God is. There is a way to manage your pain. There is a way to manage everyone's pain. And that way is to overcome our suffering by understanding that we can be the wounded healer for someone else. But we must get healed first. Don't go healing if you still need a healing. I am not suggesting, by the way, that God planned any of this. You know how people say, well, I can see the good in my life, that God was all going to use this. All things work together for good, but God did not plan for that tragic life. Not at all, and the devil didn't do it either. I am adamantly against that. People take advantage of other people, and society allows them to do it. To say that God put this together or the devil is to practice spiritual bypass. You just kind of go around the issue. And that's really not healthy. It is irresponsible to say that something happened outside of the person who did the wrong. As long as you have that belief, you didn't have any control. That's not true. Yes, you did. When you abused those children, it was your choice. But there's hope for you. God still loves you. And how can it be any other way? Some adults are so hurt, they are really not in a position to raise healthy children. But there is hope for parents who do wrong things. There is hope for everyone. God did not make it happen. God did not fail to protect the person who experienced it. Now, there's a line from Nietzsche, which you've heard in a song, that says, what doesn't kill you makes you stronger. Well, guess what? It may be true, but it ain't a principle. Okay? Because not everybody comes out better than they went in. There are some people who come out really damaged. So that's not a principle for life. It's true, you are stronger as long as you end up on the stronger side. But that is not the principle. The principle is God is always there for you. So what is mine to do? What are we to do? The biggest thing for us to do is to recognize people that are at risk and do the appropriate things and notification. That understand, learn. LGBTQ youth, unstable living situations, these kids are all vulnerable. The National Human Trafficking Hotline has tons of resources. And there are 20 recommendations for anybody to help at state.gov. Human trafficking is a terrible thing, but there is a lot of money associated with it. But I still ask, what is mine to do? What is mine to do is we need to be healed from the hurt that we have so that we can help heal someone else. We must embrace our own healing so that we can help someone else. Because guess what? Newsflash, sometimes parents don't do the right thing. But that doesn't mean God doesn't love them. We are not lost. No one is lost. An awareness of our wholeness is open to everyone. It is a healing medicine to us. The healer is the one who brings us into a new consciousness to deal with the pain, to stop the cycle of pain and abuse. It is our purpose to inspire, to put spirit in other people's life. My woundedness is only of value if it gets used to help someone else. That's how we are transformed from pain to power. And so it is. Thank you.
The night I fell in sorrow, I knew I was alone. A dozen good time friendships, but my heart is still unknown. I thought I saw your footsteps in the sand along the shore, and I mumbled empty phrases that sang so well before. And now inches from the water, about to disappear, I feel you behind me, but how did you find me here? I couldn't reach for rescue. I hid myself from you. I couldn't stand to see me from your point of view. 'Cause I knew I'd disappoint you if I showed you this child who's still crying out inside me, lost in the wild. Now inches from the water, about to disappear, I feel you behind me, but how did you find me?